when we explain things without movement, we stagnate. And when we stagnate, we fail to grow. And anything in life that stagnates rots. It dies and it rots. I don't know how else to say that. It just does. And the hard part is pain is real. And I've talked about this a lot the last few months, but so is your agency to operate even with pain. You know, I don't ever want somebody to say, oh, so you're saying mental illness isn't real? Of course not. Of course I'm not saying that. I am literally devoting most of my adult life to helping people with mental illness. Depression is real. Trauma is real. Anxiety is real. ADHD, addiction, they're all real. But your struggle being real doesn't mean it gets to become the ruler of your life. And one of the cruelest things we can do to people is convince them that they are powerless against their diagnoses and their circumstances. Because now the diagnosis stops being about gaining information and learning how to grow, and it becomes destiny. It becomes this thing that they can't overcome. That's just dressing up hopelessness in clinical language. And that is no help. There's a really big difference between this affects me and this defines me. The one, it just automatically leaves room for growth. The other says, nope, this is who I am and there's nothing else that I can do. It's resignation. And you'll see this even within, this is probably a whole separate episode, but you'll see this with people who have gone through really deep grief things. Someone who lost a spouse, car wreck, death, any of those. You'll see people who have medically complex children, people who have gone through a life-altering accident as an adult. Maybe they went from being able to walk to confined to a wheelchair. And there's a lot of research on this, that you can track the language of how they post. The unhealthy people always post about themselves. The unhealthy people always post about how it only affects them. The healthy people talk about what they experienced and what they hope to do with that experience for other people, how they want to help other people with that experience, how they want to lead other people to growth. And it's a fascinating study. I'm probably going to do an episode on that. Sometimes I hesitate to say that I'm going to do an episode because sometimes the idea literally comes to me while I'm recording this and I don't write it down into my slush fund of ideas, and then I never come back to it. And one of you listens and you send me a text or an email, or you reach out to me and you're like, hey, what about this episode? I'm like, oh, crap. And so that's no good. So I haven't written that down, so I'm just going to say maybe. Longtime listeners won't be surprised by this next segment because I've said it before. I think what happened was in society, we overcorrected them. We had this giant pendulum swing where over here we had the generation before us that didn't talk about emotions at all. Everything was just rub dirt on it and get rah, rah, rah. Right? But now we've come so far the other way that we've overstated it. And I started with this idea this month, and I'm going to end this month with this idea. Because for years, mental health was ignored. People mocked it. They hid it because it was mocked. And it was stigmatized. Let's just be honest about that. People were told, well, you just got to pray harder. Just trust God more. Man up. Get over it. I always love the ones that appeal to my testosterone. In fact, now that I'm old, probably when I was younger, that would sometimes incite me. Now I'll just look at people and be like, oh yeah, appeal to my testosterone. That'll probably move me. And you'll hear this one, stop being dramatic. And the problem is, there are people that need to stop being dramatic. But by and large, that generation's use of that was harmful. But now we've swung so far the other direction that sometimes struggle itself becomes sacred. It's literally like, if there's not something wrong with you, is there something wrong with you? You're not allowed to be like, no, I'm okay. Or yeah, you know what? I went through this and it was really hard, but I'm moving forward. And again, I'm gonna finish the month with this. Awareness matters, but awareness alone won't actually change anything. It's like looking in a mirror and not doing anything. This afternoon, I had to run home in between recording some of these episodes, and I made myself a protein shake for lunch because it's quick, and I dripped some chocolate on my hoodie. And my daughter's like, hey, I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna leave it because I'm gonna go home and do some work outside. And I'm not using the hoodie to record this, so you can't see it. But if I did reuse the hoodie, right, or if I had some chocolate on my face, and you're watching this on YouTube, you'd be like, that fool has chocolate on his face. And when we do this, what happens is sometimes healing gets replaced with self-protection. And the self-protection is protecting the identity of the diagnosis, not protecting the person. Self-awareness alone is not growth. It's a growth activity. It's like going to the gym and working out a little bit. But being able to recognize that there's something going on inside of you without doing something about it isn't growth. And when we do that, what happens is we take labels and they become excuses to never confront hard things, or to rarely confront hard things, or to half-heartedly confront hard things. And that doesn't help us, because awareness matters. I've said this already about 9 times, but awareness alone won't change your life. You can deeply understand your patterns that are destructive. You can deeply understand what's going on with you, the things that are unique to you because of your diagnoses, because of whatever's going on. But you can still remain trapped in them if that's all the further you take it. Insight is valuable, but movement transforms. And think about it. We've even taken to the point where we've tried to make the labels sexy, right? We've gone from neurodivergent, rather than just saying somebody's autistic, they have ADHD or whatever, right? They're on the spectrum, saying something like that. We've moved to, well, I'm neurospicy. And it's goofy, because what we're doing is we're trapping people. People aren't allowed to say, yes, I'm on the spectrum and I struggle to pick up on social cues. So you might have to tell me so that I can move forward. Joe, you're shaming them. No, I'm not. I cannot tell you how many people have sat in my room and said, I just wish people would help me pick up on cues. I'll say it one last time. Insight is valuable, but motivation or movement transforms. Insight has value. Movement transforms, and that's the goal. One of the things that is becoming, I think, an unintended consequence of this is people tend to shrink their life down to their worst day. They shrink their life down to their most weak and vulnerable spot. You're not merely your anxiety. You're not merely your depression. You're not merely your trauma or whoever hurt you. You're not merely your addiction. You're not merely your diagnosis. You're a full person. You are a whole person who has things that they have to wrestle with that maybe not everyone else has. But those other people probably have things they wrestle with that you don't. You still have agency. You still have responsibility. You still have value. You still have choices. You still have the capacity to grow and impact others.